I'm still trying to decide whether buying books or reading books is my favorite. Hey Booktube, it's Kim at Middle of the Bookmarch, and this is my bookish week for an unknown day in April. Sunday in April. I don't know. I'll put the date on the screen somewhere. I gave up. What did I do last week? I finished 2 books and a short story. So I've got actually a lot of bookish stuff to talk about. So let's just get right into it, shall we? I finally finished Still Life by A.S. Byatt. This was a long delayed buddy read with Judy Brown, and Judy finished it a long time ago. This is the second book in the Frederica Potter Quartet. Yes, I can speak. This is the second book. This was not as successful as the first one, which is The Virgin in the Garden. And Judy and I both talked about this. We're not sure when or if we're going to continue with this quartet. I did not love this book. I'm not sure I really like Frederica as a character, and I'm not going to get into a lot of detail because it is the second book. It covers her life as she's going off to college at Cambridge. But Byatt can write beautifully, but she also can be very esoteric, obscure, long-winded, bloated. She inserts a lot of information that really doesn't have anything to do with the plot, is tangential, goes off on tangents. That word and the date, I can't do it. But she goes off on all different directions that have something to do with the plot and something to do with the characters. But I don't care. I'm not interested. And it pulls me out of the story. And a few times in this book, she addresses the reader directly about why she wrote this novel. I don't care about that either. And so I was a little irritated by this book. There were so many beautiful parts that I marked, but my overwhelming feeling was I didn't enjoy this reading experience. And 2 out of the 4 books, I'm not sure we're going to continue. I might read a different Byatt book. I have the children's book on my shelf that I do want to read, but I'm not sure I'm going to continue with that series. There's so many characters that I really liked, and one character in particular, there was, an event in the book that I'm like, oh, come on. Come on. Okay, what did I finish next? I finished an audiobook, and that is This American Ex-Wife, How I Ended My Marriage and Started My Life by Liz Lenz. Oh, doggy. This was really interesting to listen to. She narrates it. I was, I think, expecting something a little different, but was surprised in a good way. I won't say pleasantly surprised, because it's not really a pleasant topic. But I was surprised in a good way. I learned a lot of information that wasn't expecting to listen to or read about. But she basically is telling us about her marriage and divorce and how that liberated her in her life. And if you are interested in reading more or listening to more of discussion on marriage and the patriarchy, historically, what marriage has been used for, how women interact with and in their marriages, it's really good stuff. There were times when I wasn't really jiving with her train of thought. Like, I don't know about that. Or some other times where I thought she contradicted herself. And there were some other times where I thought she was trying to gather other women onto her bandwagon. And understandable, but not really agreeable. But she had a lot of really interesting things to say. And early on in the book, she was talking about what initially was the straw that broke the camel's back for her leaving her husband and getting a divorce. And she used to have little things around the house, whether it was a mug or some sort of knickknack, and stuff would go missing and she couldn't find it. And it was little things. It wasn't anything valuable. It wasn't like jewelry or anything like that. But little things that she really enjoyed around her home would go missing. And one day I think she was in their basement or in a closet somewhere, and she discovered a box filled with all of her things that went missing. And after she got over the shock, she confronted her husband about it. And he said, yeah, I put those things there. And she questioned him, like, why would you do that? I really like those things. And he said, well, I don't like them. And so I didn't want you to have them. I didn't like what they represented. And you may think that's a spoiler, but that's very early on in the book. And I was just incredibly shocked by that and thought to myself, yeah, I would have left him too. You don't get to remove evidence of me throughout my home, and you don't get to remove the things that I enjoy without repercussion. But that was kind of the end of her bothering to try to keep her marriage together. So there was a lot that led up to that. But once she discovered that, she made her decision. So a very interesting book. I do recommend it. I have to say there was a lot of stuff in there that's already been said, been read, been written. It's not revelatory, but it is good. It's interesting, and I can definitely recommend it. The last thing I finished last week was a short story, and this is Lovers at the Museum by Isabel Allende. This was a very short, well, not very short. It's probably like a 45-page short story that I read on my Kindle, and no, it was very forgettable, very basic. And I love Isabel Allende's writing, but this one did not live up to what I've come to expect from her and what I've loved in her writing. I still love her writing, but this was just not that great of a story. It was basic and not a big deal. Two young lovers get caught in a museum after spending the night, frolicking around the museum, and the young woman is wearing a wedding dress. What does this all mean? But there wasn't anything major about the story. The writing was fine. I didn't think it was excellent. So, meh. It was just a meh. It was free. It was short. So I read it. Meh. I much prefer Allende's novels, and will continue to read those. So those are the three things I finished last week. What am I currently reading? I am currently reading Stoner by John Williams. This was on my, I don't remember if it was in my 24 or if it was Why Haven't I Read This Yet in one of those videos. I will link those below. But I picked Stoner after I put a poll on my community page about which type of book should I read next, and literary won the prize. So I picked Stoner. And so far, I'm a little over a third through it. Really enjoying this one. What am I also I'm listening to, my next audiobook that I'm listening to is called Broke in America, Seeing, Understanding, and Ending U.S. Poverty by Joanne Samuel Goldblum and Colleen Shaddix. Oh, wow. This is extremely powerful. I'm listening to this in the car. Extremely, extremely powerful. It's talking about water, food, housing, and the three ways those things in the United States are manipulated by corporate greed to put more money in the profits of big business and drive people into poverty. So many good statistics and case studies and evidence, and it's phenomenal. It's a phenomenal listen. I got through the water section. I'm on to food next. And when these authors are talking about what happens when people have to pay for water, homeowners pay water bills, and how that water gets processed and who buys it and for how much, I was beside myself in the car. What's next? Are corporations going to charge us for air? And water should be a basic human right, but we're paying for water, and there are corporations who bottle water for drinking and for profit that are paying nothing for the access to water, but residents have to pay their water bills. It's excruciating to listen to, and it's enraging. But I just started on to the section about food. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Did I start Food or Housing? One of those, I don't remember. The water section was maddening enough, infuriating. But it's an incredibly powerful audiobook to listen to. And what else? Those are the things I'm currently reading. I had a couple of other things. I started a couple things that I immediately removed. I wanted to talk to you about this one. This one made me sad, but I'm not sorry I DNF'd it. Ash, A Secret History by Mary Gentle. This is a high fantasy collection of novels, a bind-up of, I think it's 4, of a young woman named Ash who is a hired mercenary. And I found this book because I think I was looking up fantasy books written by women, and this one came up on a few different lists. And I wanted to read this for March of the Mammoth, so that's when I started it. I did not get very far at all. And on the very first page of this book, there is a sexual violence scene involving a child. And it's Ash, the main character. This is on page 1. So I read that and it was very disturbing, and I thought to myself, okay, that has something to do with what happens to this character and how this character develops in the novel. So I kept reading. I have DNF'd many books that have to do with violence towards children. So I did keep reading this one. And then I was not even 35 pages into the book when there was another scene of violence, sexual violence against the same child. And I said, nope, I won't read any further. Life is too short to try to tolerate that material in a book that I think after it's only 35 pages into a book that's, it's in the 1100 pages mark, and now I'm 35 pages in and there's already 2 scenes of sexual violence against children, young children. Nope, all set. So I DNF'd that. I'm going to get rid of that book. I've read some pretty alarming, disturbing material in the past, but this one just hit me differently, and I wasn't interested. I didn't want to continue. I forgot when this was published. And I don't want to read high fantasy with that in my books. This one was published in 1999. That could mean nothing, but it's an older book. So I wasn't interested in continuing with that one. And that is it for me for this week. I will continue to read Stoner and listen to my audiobook. And what do I have coming up? I believe I'm going to be reading The Two Towers with Heidi and Doris. If we're still going to continue that, I would like to. And we're going to keep going with the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Maybe we'll pick up the last one in June. I'm not sure. We're not on a very tight schedule with this. And what else do I have coming up? April, there's a lot of reading events. People April is in April. Yep. Springathon is in May. I have an event coming up in May. I'll talk about that later this week, or sometime this week. And yeah, there's a lot of things. There's always a lot of things going on BookTube. There's always a lot of bookish things going on. Take part in something. Even if you read one book, it's a lot of fun. Don't overcommit. Don't do that because nobody wants you to get stressed out. But find an event that you're really interested in and read a book. Honestly, read any book. So that's it for me for this week. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye, everybody.